Hi, I'm Claire Peterson. At 32, I've built a successful career as an interior designer in a bustling city. My life seems pretty solid. Good job, a supportive boyfriend, and a close-knit circle of friends. But beneath the surface, my family was falling apart, and I never saw it coming. My younger sister, Lily, is 30 and just got married to Mark. They're a wonderful couple, always the life of the party. Planning her wedding should have been a joyous time, but it was anything but that. Our father, John Peterson, had been struggling for years. At 60, he was battling alcoholism and making reckless decisions ever since his divorce. Watching him spiral was painful, but I tried to stay strong for Lily. "Claire, are you sure Dad is going to make it?" Lily asked one evening as we went over the final details for her wedding. I sighed, rubbing my temples. "I hope so, Lily. I really do. He promised he'd stay sober this time." Lily looked worried. "I'm scared he might not. What if he ruins everything?" I reached out and squeezed her shoulder. "We've done everything we can. Let's just focus on making your day perfect." Our father's presence was always a cloud over our family. Since his divorce, he'd become distant and unreliable. Then he started seeing Cassandra. From the moment I met her, something felt off. She was charming on the surface, but there was a coldness in her eyes that made me uneasy. "Have you noticed how Cassandra always seems to be whispering in Dad's ear?" I mentioned to my best friend, Sarah, during one of our coffee dates. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "Yeah, she's always around him. It's like she's controlling him." I agreed, feeling a knot form in my stomach. I'm starting to think she's taking advantage of him. I need to find out more about her. Balancing wedding plans with my concerns about Dad and Cassandra was exhausting. My boyfriend, Daniel, was incredibly supportive. He always knew how to lift my spirits. "You're doing an amazing job, Claire," Daniel said one night as we relaxed at home. "Don't let this family drama get to you too much." I managed a small smile. "Thanks, Daniel. It means a lot." As the wedding day approached, the tension in our family grew. Lily and Mark wanted everything to be perfect, but my father's unpredictable behavior threatened to overshadow it all. Cassandra's influence over him seemed to tighten each day, making me more suspicious of her intentions. One afternoon, while we were selecting floral arrangements, Lily voiced her fears again. "Do you really think Dad will stay sober this time?" I tried to reassure her, though doubt gnawed at me. "I do. He wants to be there for you, Lily." But deep down, I wasn't so sure. I couldn't shake the feeling that Cassandra was up to something. Determined to protect my family, I began digging into her past. Late nights were spent scrolling through social media and making discreet calls to Dad's old friends. What I discovered was unsettling. Cassandra had a history that didn't quite add up. "Sarah, you need to see this." I called her one evening. I spread out the information I had gathered on our coffee table. Sarah's eyes widened as she scanned the documents. "This is serious, Claire. We need to be careful." Her support gave me the courage to continue my investigation, even though it meant sleepless nights and constant worry. I couldn't let anything ruin Lily's special day. The big day finally arrived. The venue was beautifully decorated, and Lily looked radiant in her wedding dress. But my anxiety was through the roof. As guests began to arrive, I kept a close eye on my father and Cassandra. Everything seemed calm, but I couldn't relax. "Everything okay, Claire?" Daniel asked, noticing my tension. I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, just a bit nervous. You know how it is." As the ceremony proceeded, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe this time, things would go smoothly. But that hope was fragile, hanging by a thread. After the vows were exchanged, we moved to the reception. The room was filled with laughter and joy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go wrong. I watched as my father mingled with the guests, his presence still a source of unease. Lily caught my eye and gave me a reassuring smile. "See? Everything's perfect." I wanted to believe her, but my instinct screamed otherwise. Cassandra's eyes kept darting around the room, and her smile never reached her eyes. My heart raced as I wondered what she was planning. Then, out of nowhere, my father started to drink again. His laughter grew louder, and his movements became erratic. Cassandra stepped closer, her influence over him now undeniable. I felt a surge of anger and fear. "Claire, maybe you should get some fresh air," Daniel suggested gently. I nodded, trying to steady my nerves. "Yeah, I think I need a break." As I walked away, my mind was racing. I had to do something to protect Lily and myself. The tension in the room was palpable, and I knew the calm was just a facade. The real storm was brewing, and I had no idea how it would unfold. Looking back, I can see the signs I missed. But at that moment, all I could do was hold on to hope and try to keep everything together. Little did I know, the events of that night would change our lives forever. At the reception, I felt the tension rise between Cassandra and me. She glared coldly and said, "You're ruining everything, Claire. Stay out of our lives." I stood my ground, replying firmly, "I'm protecting Lily from your manipulation." Her frustration exploded. "You think you can control us? You're just a meddling sister." Suddenly, she grabbed my hands tightly and slapped me hard across the face. The reception had turned into a nightmare in an instant. I still remember the sound of Cassandra slapping me, sharp and unexpected. As I stumbled to the ground, the room went silent. Guests stared, whispers filling the air like a heavy fog. Daniel was right there, pulling me up and trying to calm me down. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. I nodded, though my face burned with embarrassment and shock. "I think so," I managed to say, my voice shaky. Lily rushed to my side, her eyes wide with fear. "Claire, what happened? Are you hurt?" Before I could respond, a few guests started murmuring, some looking between Cassandra and us with confusion and concern. John, despite his drunken state, looked genuinely distressed. He tried to intervene, but Cassandra stepped back, her expression icy. "Let's get some fresh air," I suggested, desperate to diffuse the tension. Daniel nodded and guided me towards the exit, away from the prying eyes of the guests. Once outside, the cool night air hit me, and I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. "I can't believe she did that," I whispered to Daniel. He squeezed my hand reassuringly. "You did nothing wrong." Cassandra lost control. But inside, I felt anything but okay. The rest of the evening was a blur of whispered conversations and awkward glances. Cassandra was escorted out by security, but the damage was done. The joyous atmosphere of the wedding was shattered, and I couldn't shake the feeling that things were far from over. Back at home, the reality of what had happened began to sink in. Lily was devastated, blaming herself for not seeing the signs sooner. "I'm so sorry, Claire. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life," she said, tears streaming down her face. I hugged her tightly, trying to offer some comfort. "It's not your fault, Lily. We couldn't have known." Meanwhile, John was in denial. He kept insisting that Cassandra hadn't meant any harm and that I was overreacting. "She was just upset because things didn't go her way," he said stubbornly. I felt a surge of frustration. "Dad," she slapped me, "that's not something you can just brush off." He shook his head, clearly struggling with his own demons. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Claire. Let's not ruin Lily's wedding over this." His refusal to acknowledge what had happened only deepened the emotional wounds. I realized then that I couldn't keep enabling his behavior. It was time to set boundaries, no matter how difficult it would be. With Sarah's support, I decided to dig deeper into Cassandra's past. One evening, we sat in my living room, spreading out the information I had gathered. "Look at this," I said, pointing to a series of documents. "Cassandra has a history of fraud and assault. And these bank statements, they show unusual transfers between her accounts and Dad's." Sarah frowned, her eyes scanning the papers. "This is serious, Claire. If your father is involved, we need to handle this carefully." We spent hours piecing together the puzzle, uncovering connections that I never imagined. It became clear that Cassandra wasn't just a problematic girlfriend. She was using my father for her own gain. The more we found, the more convinced I became that exposing this was the only way to protect Lily and myself. One night, Sarah and I decided to confront John with the evidence. His reaction was everything I feared. He became angry and defensive, denying any wrongdoing and accusing me of betrayal. "How dare you accuse me of this?" he shouted, his voice echoing through the room. "Cassandra is good for me. She's the only one who understands me." But I stood my ground. "Dad, you're involved in her schemes. We have proof. This ends now." His face twisted with rage and sorrow. "You're ruining my life, Claire. You're just like everyone else." In that moment, I knew there was no turning back. For the sake of my sister and myself, I had to cut ties with him. It was the hardest decision I ever made, but I couldn't let his destructive behavior continue to harm us. As I walked away from that confrontation, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. The path ahead was uncertain, but I knew I was making the right choice. With Sarah by my side, I felt stronger and more determined than ever to uncover the truth and rebuild my life away from the chaos that had consumed us for so long. Months passed since that devastating wedding night. The tension in my home had eased, but the scars remained. Cutting ties with Dad was one of the hardest decisions I ever made, but with Sarah's unwavering support, I felt stronger and more determined than ever to uncover the full extent of Cassandra's deceit. One evening, Sarah and I sat in my living room, surrounded by stacks of documents and photographs. "We need to present this to the authorities," Sarah said, her voice steady. "Cassandra's crimes and Dad's involvement are too serious to ignore." I nodded, taking a deep breath. "You're right. But how do we approach this without putting ourselves in danger?" Sarah looked thoughtful. "We need to be meticulous. Gather all the evidence and find a reliable lawyer who can help us navigate this." Over the next few weeks, we worked tirelessly. We compiled financial records, recorded conversations, and even found witness statements from some of Dad's old acquaintances who were aware of Cassandra's manipulative tactics. It was exhausting, but each piece of evidence brought us closer to the truth. One afternoon, as we were finalizing our case, I received a call from Daniel. "Claire, I've been thinking," he began, his voice filled with concern. "Maybe it's time we go to the police. This can't keep going on." I hesitated for a moment before responding. "I agree, Daniel. Let's set up a meeting with a lawyer tomorrow." The next day, Sarah, Daniel, and I met with a compassionate lawyer named Rebecca Thompson. She listened carefully as we laid out our findings. "This is substantial evidence," Rebecca assured us. "We can file a report and move forward with pressing charges against Cassandra. As for your father, we'll need to present the proof of his involvement as well." Feeling a mix of relief and anxiety, I knew we were taking the right steps. The legal process would be long and challenging, but it was necessary to protect ourselves and others from Cassandra's influence. As the weeks turned into months, the case gained momentum. Cassandra was arrested and charged with fraud and assault, while evidence against Dad's complicity in her schemes began to surface. The community was shocked, and the media quickly picked up the story, turning our quiet lives into a public spectacle. Through it all, my career flourished. My dedication and resilience caught the attention of my superiors, and I was promoted to senior interior designer. The recognition was gratifying, but my true strength came from the support of those closest to me: Lily, Mark, Daniel, and Sarah. One evening, after a long day at work, I sat down with Lily and Mark for dinner. "I'm so proud of you, Claire," Lily said, raising her glass. "You've handled everything with such grace." Mark nodded in agreement. "You're an inspiration to us all." Their words warmed my heart, reminding me of the importance of chosen family. Despite the chaos and betrayal, we had formed an unbreakable bond, stronger than ever before. As Cassandra's trial approached, the tension was palpable. The courtroom was packed, and every detail of her manipulative actions and Dad's involvement was laid bare for all to see. Rebecca presented our evidence with precision, and the truth couldn't be denied. During the trial, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, and a sense of justice being served. When the verdict was announced, it was clear that Cassandra's reign of manipulation was over. But the most shocking revelation came when additional evidence revealed Dad's deeper involvement, leading to his own downfall. Watching him lose everything was heartbreaking, but it was a necessary step for both of us to heal. Through therapy, I began to process the trauma and betrayal. Dr. Chun, my therapist, helped me navigate the complex emotions that came with cutting ties and exposing my father's actions. It's okay to feel conflicted, she reminded me during one session. You've been through a lot and healing takes time. With each passing day, I felt lighter, more at peace. My bond with Lily grew even stronger, and Daniel and Sarah remained my pillars of support. We celebrated small victories together, like Lily and Mark renewing their vows in an intimate backyard ceremony, symbolizing new beginnings and the strength of our chosen family. As the trial concluded and Cassandra was sentenced, I stood up to deliver my victim impact statement. My voice trembled, but I spoke with conviction. The scars from that night run deep, but they've made me stronger. I am not a victim, but a survivor. Surrounded by Lily, Mark, Daniel, and Sarah, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. The past year had been a whirlwind of emotions and challenges, but it had also been a journey of resilience and healing. I looked around the room, seeing the faces of those who had stood by me through hell and back, and realized that true family isn't just about blood. It's about loyalty, love, and mutual respect. As I finished my statement, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The chapter of betrayal was closing, and a new one was beginning, filled with hope, gratitude, and the promise of a brighter future. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with anticipation. Months of hard work and sleepless nights had led us to this moment. Cassandra's trial was finally over, and the truth was out for everyone to see. Sitting beside me were Lily, Mark, Daniel, and Sarah, my chosen family who had stood by me through every storm. As the judge began the sentencing, I felt a mix of emotions. Anger at Cassandra for everything she had done, sadness for my father's downfall, and a sense of relief that justice was being served. Rebecca, our lawyer, presented the final pieces of evidence that tied John to Cassandra's schemes. The room was silent as the verdict was delivered. Cassandra was sentenced to several years in prison for her crimes, and the evidence against my father was undeniable. John's involvement led to his own legal troubles, a heartbreaking end to a man I once loved deeply. Watching him lose everything was painful, but it was a necessary step for me to heal and move forward. After the trial, I found solace in therapy. Dr. Chun helped me navigate the complex emotions that came with exposing my father's actions and cutting ties with him. Healing takes time, she reminded me during one session. You've shown incredible strength through this ordeal. With each passing day, I felt lighter. My bond with Lily grew even stronger as we supported each other through the aftermath. Daniel and Sarah remained my pillars of support, always there to listen and encourage me. Our chosen family had become my anchor, showing me that true family is built on love, loyalty, and mutual respect. 6 months after the trial, my career took an unexpected turn. My dedication and creativity caught the attention of my superiors, and I was promoted to senior interior designer. The recognition was gratifying, but what mattered most was the inner strength I had discovered. I felt more confident and ready to embrace the future. One evening, Lily and Mark invited me to dinner at their home. We celebrated not only their renewed vows but also the strength of our family bond. "I'm so proud of you, Claire," Lily said, raising her glass. "You've handled everything with such grace." Mark nodded, smiling warmly. "You're an inspiration to us all." Their words filled me with gratitude. Despite the chaos and betrayal, we had formed an unbreakable bond. Later that night, we gathered in my backyard for Lily and Mark's vow renewal ceremony. It was a simple, intimate affair, symbolizing new beginnings and the resilience of our chosen family. As I watched Lily and Mark exchange rings, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The past year had been a whirlwind of emotions and challenges, but it had also been a journey of healing and growth. Surrounded by those who truly mattered, I realized that our family was stronger than ever. A month after the vow renewal, the final chapter of Cassandra's trial concluded. I stood in the courtroom to deliver my victim impact statement. My voice trembled, but I spoke with conviction. The scars from that night run deep, but they've made me stronger. I am not a victim, but a survivor. Looking around the room, I saw the faces of Lily, Mark, Daniel, and Sarah. Their support gave me the courage to speak my truth. As Cassandra was led away in handcuffs, I felt a sense of closure. The chapter of betrayal was finally closing, and a new one was beginning. That evening, we gathered at my favorite restaurant to celebrate my promotion and our collective resilience. Zoe raised her glass, her eyes filled with pride. "To the strongest people I know," she toasted. I smiled, clinking glasses with my family. "To all of us. We've proven that family isn't just about blood, it's about the loyalty and love we choose to share." As we laughed and shared stories, I felt a profound sense of hope and gratitude. The past year had been a nightmare, but it had also been a gift. It taught me about my own strength, the importance of setting boundaries, and the beauty of finding a family built on genuine love and support. Sitting there, surrounded by those who mattered most, I knew that this was my happy ending. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and beautiful in its own way. As I looked toward the future, I felt nothing but hope and excitement for the life I was building, a life filled with love, resilience, and the promise of new beginnings.